Good morning, brothers and sisters. Christ. Welcome to another reading through the Bible series with Law of Christ Ministries. We are in part 18 or day 18 through our reading of the entire Bible. And let's continue. We are in Genesis, and this is what God's word says today. Now, when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son to Jacob, and she called his name Reuben, saying, inasmuch as the Lord has seen my humiliation, now it is me my husband will love. And Leah conceived again and bore a second son to Jacob, and said, because the Lord has heard that I am hated, he has also in addition given me this one too. And she called him his name Simeon. And yet again she conceived and bore a son again. At the present time my husband will be on my side, for I have bore him three sons. Therefore she called him Levi. And after she had conceived yet again, she bore a son, and said, now yet again with respect to this I will acknowledge the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah. Then she ceased to bear. Now when Rachel saw that she had not given birth for Jacob, then Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, give me children, otherwise I shall die. And Jacob became angry with Rachel and said, surely I am not in the place of a God who has deprived you with respect to the fruit of the womb. Then she said to Jacob, here is my female slave Bala, go into her, and she shall bear up my knees, and I shall have children by her. And she gave him her female slave Bala as a wife for him. And Jacob went into her, and Rachel's female slave Bala conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has judged me and heard my voice and gave me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. And Rachel's female slave Bala conceived yet again, and she bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, God has assisted me, and I have lived together with my sister and have been strong enough. And she called his name Naphtali. Now Leah saw that she had ceased to bear, and she took her female slave Selpha and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Then Jacob went into her, and Leah's female slave Zelpha conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, by fortune, she named his name Gad. And Leah's female slave conceived and bore Jacob a second son as well. And Leah said, happy I am, for the woman pronounced me happy. And she called his name Asher. Now in the days of wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrake apples in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah said, it is not enough for you that you have taken away my husband. Surely you will not also take away my son's mandrakes. Then Rachel said, not so. Let him lie with you this night in exchange for your son's mandrake. And Jacob came in from a field at evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, you shall come in me today, for I have hired you in exchange for my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her through the night, and God heard Leah. And after she had conceived, she bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, God has given me my hire, since I gave my female slave to my husband. And she called his name Issachar, which is higher. And Leah conceived yet again, and she bore Jacob a sixth son. Then Leah said, God has given a good gift to me. At the present time, my husband will choose me, for I have bore him six sons. And she called his name, what's the name in? One second. Zebulun. Sorry, I'm reading out of the Greek, so these names are weird. Zebulun. Okay. And afterwards, she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel, and God heard her and opened her uterus. And after she had conceived, she bore Jacob a son. God has taken away my reproach, and she calls his name Joseph, saying, let God add to me another son. Now it came about when Rachel had born Joseph that Jacob said to Laban, send me away in order that I may depart to my region and to my country. Give up my wives and children on account of whom I was subject to you, in order that I may depart, for you know very well the servitude which I have served you. But Laban said to him, if I found favor before you, I would have learned it by ornithomancy. Okay? Indeed, God blessed me before your coming. Specify your wage to me, and I will give it. Then Jacob said to him, you do know in what things I was subject to you, and how numerous your cattle have been because of me. For what you had before me was little, and increased to a multitude. For the Lord blessed you at my foot. Now then, shall I too prepare a household for myself? And Laban said to him, what shall I give you? And Jacob said to him, you shall not give me anything. If you carry out this matter for me, I will again shepherd your sheep, and I will keep them. Let your sheep pass by today, and separate thence every gray sheep among the lambs, and every pure white and spotted one among the goats. Such shall be my wage, and my righteousness will be hearkened to me tomorrow, because my wage is before you. And one that is not spotted and pure white among the goats and gray among the lambs shall in my judgment have been stolen. Then Laban said to him, let it be according to your word. And on that day he set apart the male goats that were spotted in pure white, and all the female goats that were spotted in pure white, and every one that was white among them, every one that was gray among the lambs, and gave them into the control of his sons. And he put a distance of 3 days' journey between them and between Jacob. Now Jacob was shepherding Laban's remaining sheep, and Jacob took for himself a green rod of styrax and walnut, and one of a plane tree, and Jacob stripped white strips in them, tearing away the green. And the white that had stripped appeared variegated on the rods, and he set the rods that he had stripped into the channels of the watering troughs of water, in order that when the sheep would come to drink in front of the rods, as they came for drinking, the sheep would come into the heat of the rods, and the sheep would produce pure white and variegated and ash colored spotted young. And Jacob set apart the lambs, and set before the sheep a pure white ram, and every variegated one among the lambs. He separated flocks for himself on his own, and did not mix them with Laban's sheep. Now it came about in the season in which the sheep came into the heat, as they were conceived, and Jacob placed the rods into the channels before the sheep, they might come into heat opposite of the rods. But when the sheep would give birth, he would not place them. So then the unmarked were Laban's, and the marked were Jacob's. And the man became very, very rich, and had large herds and cattle, and male slaves and female slaves, camels and donkeys. All right, guys, we'll stop there. Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. God bless.